You've got a premium or luxury brand, a beautiful product, service, or experience, and you want to move it to market. The question is, how do you do that? Now, you're probably going to need to bootstrap it, which means you don't have a lot of capital, or you don't have an unlimited source of financing, and you're going to have to figure out how to do it through Cashflow or how to do it through ingenuity. And that's what we're going to talk about. Bootstrapping your luxury brand. Hi, I'm Andre Taylor, and on this channel we talk about luxury, premier living, and prosperity. Now in this video we're going to talk about bootstrapping a luxury brand. This is for you if you are a professional, if you are an artist, if you are a crafts person, someone who is creative that wants to move a luxury product to market. I've been working with luxury brands for more than 2 decades, large and small. And most of the brands that come to me are going to be bootstrapped. And that's because they just don't have huge amounts of financing in order to move to market. So they have to figure out how to become clever in what they do, how to make sure that every dollar, or whatever the realm of financing that they work in, how to make it count, and how to make sure that they're doing everything they can to move the product to market. So the question is, how do you bootstrap? What do you do? And what's involved in bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is trying to move a product, and I shouldn't say trying, it's actually moving a product to market with very little money. It's figuring out how to do it on Cashflow, how to do it on connections, how to do it based on street savvy, and how to survive without having a lifeline of lots of cash. Now, a lot of brands have to do this, and it is a challenge without question because there are so many things that you have to consider when you're building a brand. But bootstrapping is what many brands have to do, and it is often a test of the ingenuity of the founders. Can they figure out how to develop cash flow, to get sales, to expand the marketplace, to build a team, to find distribution, all of these things that are required when you're building a luxury brand. Now, if you are building a brand and you are in a position where you have to bootstrap, I'm going to share with you a few things that you should know about bootstrapping that will help you in the process. Now, I guess the first question is bootstrapping realistic? Well, it's as real as necessary, because if that is your only option, it's what you're going to have to do. The good news is that once you demonstrate that you can produce revenue, that you can get clients, you will often find support in the way of financing, investors, partners, additional clients that will come your way. But often the only way to get going is to bootstrap. And that means taking every morsel that you have, every idea that you have, and using it to move forward. Now, the great thing today about bootstrapping is that we have this wonderful tool called social media. So we have the ability to show our products and services to a very large market. However, in the beginning of the process, you often don't know who the right client is going to be. You may not be able to spend money on advertising, and maybe that isn't even a good idea even, because until you know precisely who you're talking to, advertising can be quite costly. So when it comes to evaluating whether bootstrapping is realistic, it is as realistic as you are pragmatic in your decisions. That means you have to really think through everything you do and to decide before you do it, is this the best use of my time? Is this the best use of my money? Now that can be a series of misleading questions because bootstrapping also brings about a series of fears and anxieties and things you don't know. And so you don't always know whether it's the right decision or not. But the key to bootstrapping is to always find a way to move forward. Always find a way to move forward. So it's realistic if you're committed to that. Because in bootstrapping, you will encounter challenges. And some of those challenges will be discouraging. So I want you to understand that it is realistic. It can be done. It is done every day. You see companies that grow to substantial sizes, and they often do not have outside financing. But this is not easy. It does require lots of work, lots of savvy, and lots of careful decisions in order to move forward. Now, the world is in love today with certain phrases: performance, accountability, addressable market, scaling. These are beautiful words when it comes to venture capital and business plans and things like that. But a great bootstrapper is really focused on getting those initial clients any way they can. And so while you can analyze the market from an academic sense, and no disrespect to people who do that, I find the best bootstrappers are those who figure out a way to do something that in some ways is staring them in the face, but others might choose not to do it. So it reminds me of Richard Branson, for example, when he started Virgin Airlines. That was a one plane airline. So, airlines was a bit of an overstatement. But he had to figure out, how do I put Virgin in the air? And the idea was, well, I can do it with one plane, and I can then figure out what else I need to do. That is what a bootstrapper will do. How do I figure out, how do I get my early clients? Does that mean literally getting in the car and showing up at various places to sell my product? Does it mean calling everyone in my phone to ask them if they will buy a product? Does it mean trying to find a famous person, a celebrity, who might be interested in what I have to do, and see if I can get them to help me out in some way? I saw recently someone approached a celebrity when they were on their way into an interview, and I was very impressed with the fact that not only did this person approach the celebrity, and the person had signage and all sorts of things there, but the celebrity actually stopped and listened and had dialogue with them and said they would follow up with them. So I thought that was really beautiful. It's the kind of thing that I had to do when I was bootstrapping my ventures. You get on the phone and you just try to figure out, how can I move this forward? And what you'll find in the process is, when you start doing those initial things, you will be led to additional things that may not seem like a direct link to what you need, but they often will lead you to more success that you did not anticipate, because you are staying in forward motion. So I want you to remember that forward motion is key. You're going to have moments where you're not going to know what to do. But if you can inch yourself forward, that's important. Now, the other thing that's important in bootstrapping is making sure that your costs are low, and making sure that the things that you're doing and money that you're spending is really important. One thing about bootstrapping is it forces you to focus on something that's absolutely necessary. You're not going to focus on anything that's frivolous. So you have to ask yourself, will this lead to a sale? Will this lead to me expanding the business? Is this the best use of my time and money? Now, I have to tell you, in some cases, it may not seem like it's the best use of time, but you have to weigh each thing in that fashion. And if your costs are low, and if you're continuing to build momentum and you're focused on sales, you will find that you will make some progress. Now let's talk about some of the bootstrapping realities. The first one is that not every company will be able to raise money, nor should they. So some companies will only be able to grow through creative means, at least until they're able to establish consistent revenues. The other thing, of course, is that bootstrapping requires that you absorb the risk. So if you are risk averse, you will find it very difficult to grow your business because bootstrapping requires you to weigh risk all the time. And I believe that you have to take a risk. It is scary. It can be very challenging. It can be devastating. It can keep you up at night. But no one has really built anything without taking risks. You try to do calculated risks. You try to do your best. But what often you'll find is that the big moves that you anticipated will work often don't work. And so you find yourself in a position where you are, not only have you taken a risk, but you've put yourself in greater peril potentially because you've taken that risk. Now, what's important in those moments is to keep your mind right. In fact, the most important thing in bootstrapping is the mind, because often you're making progress and you can't see it because everything is so cloudy. So you're gaining momentum, but you can't see it. You've got a client, but it's not enough, so it seems like the business isn't working. Money is coming in, but it isn't enough to pay the bill. You need to produce something, but you don't have enough funds to do that, so you have to wait. All of those things can seem quite devastating and very scary even. And if you're relying on your business to produce income for you so you can live, it's even scarier. I've been there many times where you think something is going to work and it doesn't work. And not only does that challenge the business, it challenges your very existence. And of course, if you have a family, you're in that situation as well. So these are some of the realities of bootstrapping. You will find that particularly in the early days when you don't know whether something is going to work or not, you're going to always be second guessing yourself. Many of the clients that I work with are coming back to me all the time and saying, well, what do you think about this? And I'll give them the answer, and then a week or two later, they're asking the same question. And that's just the fear and the doubt that they're experiencing. In bootstrapping, time also is something that is hard to assess because you are dealing with something and it seems like forever waiting for a check to come in, or waiting for a deal to close, or waiting for a client to say yes, or you think someone is thinking about something and considering it, but they're not thinking about it and considering it at all. So these are realities of the business, of bootstrapping, that you're going to deal with things that don't work. You have to absorb risk. You will at times be in peril, and you will be at times afraid. Now, I don't know if I've discouraged you on bootstrapping, but I do want to be really clear with you on what bootstrapping entails. Now, there is a flip side to bootstrapping, And that is when you're able to sell, when you're able to move your product forward. And often when you sell that first product or that second product, or it is so exciting, it is so rewarding that it's just something that makes you feel like you can make it. And that's what we're looking for in bootstrapping, those moments. Keep in mind, often that isn't enough. And so the other side of bootstrapping is not underestimating how much effort is required, how much focus is required, and most important, how many sales are required to move your business forward. Now, I just used an important word, and that is sales. And often someone who is building a luxury brand is thinking about the product and how great it is, how beautiful it is, how well it's packaged and presented, and what great quality it is, and how elegant it is, but they're not thinking about sales. And sales sometimes is a bad word, particularly when it comes to premium and luxury products, because there is this feeling that you shouldn't sell. Well, if you don't sell, you're going out of business. And the first line in your income statement is sales. So you have to figure out how to sell your product. It's one of the key things in bootstrapping. How do you sell your product? What is the way to market? Does it happen by consultation? Does it happen by attracting, having people respond to you? Does it happen through referrals? Does it happen through ads? Does it happen through partners? And the answer to that question and those questions is yes. It happens through all of those means. Every single one of those and more are things that you're going to have to do to sell your product. You will not be able to just create a beautiful product and post online and wait. You will have to do a combination of things to move your product forward. And I want to emphasize something, particularly to you in the luxury market. It's more than talking to other people in luxury. That's wonderful and it's valuable, but it's talking to potential clients. It's talking to the people who can buy your product, because bootstrapping requires that you learn, and you're going to learn the most by talking to potential clients, hearing rejection and dealing with rejection, making mistakes. You're going to figure out who to sell the product to, how to sell the product, how people react. And one of the things I see that many brands never really do is enough of an effort selling their product to really understand how to do it. And this comes back to this notion that you should not sell your product. You should just make something really beautiful and let it sell itself, and the right person will show up. Well, some of that will happen, but I believe that you must also put in place a plan to do all those things that I'm describing. Who can I talk to about the product to let them know, hey, I'm just releasing this product. I want you to know about it. I just used the word release. Have you issued a press release so that you can describe who you are, what you do, and share that with your marketplace? Have you talked to people who are potential clients and say, I just introduced something and I think you'd love this. Would you mind if I showed this to you? Is there anyone you know that might want something like this? Tell me, who do you think I should talk to in order to move this product forward? Do you have any special days coming up or celebrations or what have you that where this might be a fit? So you've got to be a bit of a detective to figure out the right way to move your product to market. Now, what I just described to you is selling. This is an example of the kinds of conversations you have to have in the marketplace. So you want to be, of course, active on social media. You want to use your network. But you want to have conversations to figure out how to move the product forward. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people are not going to want the product. A lot of people are going to say no. A lot of people are going to avoid those conversations. And so you have to develop some resilience. You have to develop somewhat of a tough skin. And you also have to recognize that your client is out there. In fact, not only is your client out there, there's a lot of them. And so just remember that it's about being diligent, it's about being focused, it's about being relentless, and it's about creativity in moving your product to market. You have to sell your product, and you have to figure out how to expose that product to as many people as you can. And you want to do that in a way where you learn every time you do, so that you better understand what's our process. What's the best way of doing this? And where do I put the most of my resources? Because when you get money, whether it's from an investor, a bank, a financial partner of some kind, then you'll know where to put it. And you'll know what area of your sales activity and your research to really lean into. So remember, selling is key. And in order to sell, you're going to have to understand a lot about the market, a lot about your clients, and most important, experience trying to sell your product so that you know enough that when you hear something, when you experience something, you know what you're hearing. And you're not just getting angry because you can't move the product forward. You know, oh, okay, I understand what's happening here in this moment. Now, I can talk about bootstrapping because I've always had to bootstrap. I've always had to figure out how to get started with minimal capital. Now, I have had situations where I've had angel investors and others who would help the company move forward. But often the real movement, moving the needle, was finding the right clients who could buy. Now, in my case, what I've always focused on is finding significant clients who could be partners, significant clients who could buy. And I was always looking for something that would really move the needle in a major way. And I've been successful at doing that. And often I've had to be creative in figuring out how do I package something in a way for this particular prospect that enables them to make a large purchase from me. So I've had a lot of experience in being undercapitalized and being having to bootstrap and having to come up with another idea and another idea and another idea and things not working and setbacks and all of those things. But I can tell you that the rewards when it works can be enormous. And it's so exciting when you start to gather momentum. So some practical things you want to do is, number one, you want to find the best client for your product early on. So you want to do some experimenting and see if you can do some initial product sales or incentives to get a product in someone's hand so that you can figure out whether they like the product, whether it's something they would buy, whether the product makes them happy, whether it holds up, and all of those things. The second thing is you want to figure out who this ideal client is. Who is likely, most likely, to want your product and buy your product? Now, often it's more than one person. And often what you must do is figure out, how do I sell this product to different people in different situations? So you have, for example, a bath product, a nice soap, bath gel? Or is it better to sell as an individual product? Is it better to sell as a set? How do I describe this product, and how do I make suggestions on how to enjoy this product? Is it a great product for winding down on a Sunday evening? Is it a great product after a busy day at work? And is it a great product, oh, the kids are finally in bed, I have a few moments to myself? So you want to think about creative ways to sell your product and creative uses for that product. Often what you'll find is when you come up with an idea like that, it'll be really helpful in terms of being able to market the product. Then you want to market the product. And today, content is something that's very valuable when it comes to marketing your product. And I find that a lot of folks, when they go on social media, instead of marketing their product, they're talking about other things, about what they don't like about the market, about clients underestimating them, or lots of philosophies and theories about this and that. I say tell stories that engage, that enchant, that excite, that move, that make someone emotionally want to have your product. Experiment with how to do that, how to show it, how to add a nice image with that, how to use beautiful words. You want to romance your audience. And I believe that when it comes to bootstrapping, there's nothing more powerful than being relentless about storytelling, getting the message out. This is part of your sales process. This is more like marketing, but this is part of the process. So keep in mind that when you go to social media, when you do certain things, stay focused on your objective. Your objective is not so much to say how successful you are and, oh, I made a decision to be an entrepreneur and what a great thing that is, and just shows how important it is to be an entrepreneur and all of that. That's nice. But what's more important is to talk about the world around your product and create excitement around that. So remember that messaging is very important and storytelling is very important, and make sure that you stay on point. Clients and customers and members and whomever you're selling to. These are very important relationships when you're bootstrapping, because everyone wants to know that what you have to offer is desired by others, that they're enjoying it, that they're happy with it, and that if they make the decision to buy from you, it's a good decision. So make sure that you are always letting your audience know that people are buying. And as long as you're letting people know, that will improve your momentum when you're bootstrapping. It's one of the most important things. If you're driving a business based on its success with clients and customers, you have to make sure that that is ever present in your marketing. I wish you well in your bootstrapping. Take a look at this video.